I welcome you all. A very good afternoon to all those who have joined today afternoon for the webinar. My name is Vishala and I am a program manager for the academic solutions at Varthana. As most of you who are attending the webinar today know that we have been conducting a series of webinars for the past 1.5 years on various topics that are relevant to students, school leaders and teachers. Today's topic is one such topic where it not only concerns the students, it also concerns the school leaders and teachers, mental health and well-being for students, right? The other thing is, we will be issuing participation certificates to all the participants who will stay throughout the webinar, and in the end, we'll also fill out a feedback form for us. Basically, the feedback form will tell us how we can improve our future webinars or what are the different topics that you would like to have in our future webinars. So this will be very important for us. Do not miss filling out the Google form. It will only take a minute. By doing this and by staying throughout the webinar, you will be getting a participation certificate from Varthana. So I request all of you to be participative and stay throughout the webinar and fill out the feedback form. So before I embark on this webinar, I would also say NEP also suggests that for a holistic development of a student, the school management and the teachers have to ensure mental well-being of their students. So with this, let us start today's webinar, Mental Health and Well-being for the Students. Today's agenda will consist of introduction and session objectives. What is mental health and well-being? Factors that affect and what we can do about it. Q&A with the expert. So we have an expert speaker as well who will be facilitating the webinar today. Then we'll briefly, for a minute or two, we will be talking about Varthana programs and we'll be closing with a feedback. So this is the agenda for the day. For introduction and session objectives, for the introduction part, I'll be casting a poll here just to understand the participant profile. There will be a question with 4 options on your screen. Please choose the right option. This will give us an idea if most of the participants are teachers or school leaders or students. Accordingly, we can help, facilitate the webinar. We have 50% of teachers, we have 15% school leaders, 9% school coordinators, that's mostly making up the school management and teachers. And we have others, 25% of others. Thank you so much for voting. Now, getting back to the session. Today's objectives are to understand what is mental health and why it is important to care for it, to understand factors affecting mental health and ways to address the same. So very, very important objectives we will be covering throughout the webinar. So please stay put till the end of the webinar. I'm sure you'll have great takeaways at the end of it. Before we move on, I would want to introduce and welcome today's guest speaker. A very warm welcome to you, Asha ma'am, and thank you so much for taking time out to come and facilitate this webinar for us. So Ms. Asha Gnanaolivu, who is the founder and director of Beautiful Minds Astitva, a center for holistic development and psychological well-being, has a degree in psychology, and she began her career as a counselor helping adults and children resolve personal, social, educational, and psychological concerns and improve their sense of well-being. She is also a child development and rehabilitation specialist and has worked in the areas of special needs, de-addiction, juvenile delinquency, and psychological well-being of both adults and children. She has more than 20 years of experience in the field of rehabilitation, training sessions, and workshops for professionals to enhance their skills. She has also won the Bhumika Iconic Woman of the Year Award in 2017 for her contribution in the field of rehabilitation. Again, a very warm welcome to you, Asha ma'am. Thank you so much for taking time out and helping us facilitate the webinar today. I'm sure all the participants will have great takeaways from this webinar. So moving on, I have the first question: what is mental health and well-being? Why is it important? And why is it relevant in today's day and age? Over to you, Asha ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vishala. Mental health and well-being has always been something very close to my heart, and I'm happy to talk about it today. And so there has been a lot of conversations about mental health and mental well-being. I think especially during the pandemic and post-pandemic. So a topic that was a taboo and a stigma earlier is now opened doors to many conversations, which is really great. So when we say what is mental health, so mental health is also called brain health by Dr. Amen. So we give so much of importance to our physical health. We exercise, we go to the gym, we go for walks, we take vitamins, we go for a lot of tests to see that physically we are all doing well. I think that much of importance is not being given to mental health. So what is mental health and well-being? So mental health and well-being, it has three components, which is cognitive, emotional, and our behavior. Okay, so these are the three components of mental health, which is very important. So so when we say well-being, it is to see that nothing comes in the way of us going about a daily life, which would be probably socializing, which would be doing our work, learning. So so we have to see that nothing comes in the way of this. So therefore, also that we see that we are able to cope with stresses of life. We are able to problem solve. We are able to reason. We are able to, kind of pursue our skills and abilities. So, so that is why mental health and well-being is so important, and not that we're all, born with, good mental health, because our experiences are different and each one does take a toll on us. But to see that our social well-being, mental well-being, and the physical well-being, which is the health triangle, is kind of going in sync. Yeah. So I think the Times Now article on depression on students is come out with statistics which says that 81% students reported feelings of anxiety and depression due to academics, exams, and results. There was 19.73 crore Indians, or 1 in every 7, that suffer from a variety of mental problems. And 70% to 80% people in India struggling with mental illness, they receive no care. And 20% of youth experience mental disorders globally. So this is these statistics really kind of tell us how important this topic that we're talking about today is. So what are the common mental health issues? So so some of the common mental health issues that we've seen from children, little children, to the elderly, are anxiety, one of the commonest mental concern that we have, which is a feeling of fear, dread, and uneasiness. They also have physical symptoms, which would be, for little children, it could be bedwetting. It could be trembling. We say tremors, physical tremors. There are palpitations that happen, high blood pressure. So your palms sweat, excessive sweating, feeling restless and tense. So this is one of the most common symptom that we see. a little bit of, now anxiety itself is not a bad thing. Because anxiety is something that kind of drives us. So little stress is fine, because that's again what drives us to do things. But excessive anxiety is kind of a concern. So there are different kinds of anxieties also. You have generalized anxiety, you have social anxiety, you have health anxiety. So an excessive fear or anxiety is something that we really need to kind of look into. The next is depression. So anxiety can also lead to depression. Um, so depression is a feeling of persistent sadness and a loss of interest in activities. So even little things, waking up in the morning could be difficult. Let's say dressing up could be difficult, eating. So it can bring about a drastic kind of change in your daily routine. And even your simplest of activities that you do, going to school or college or work becomes very, very difficult. So that is something that you really need to watch out for yourself and for others. So the other one is also, we see OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder or behaviors, which could be recurring unwanted thoughts of any kind of a thought, ideas or sensations. Some also, have OCDs like washing hands, wiping. I think something that we've noticed after the pandemic is using the washing hands and using the sanitizer, which has become in many schools we found that children are doing that. That's again an obsessive compulsive behavior due to a kind of a fear. So so these are also some things that you could watch out for. So there are many other kind of disorders and concerns that you need to watch out for. So one is addictions. So any kind of an addiction is not good. So what is addiction? It's a compulsive need and the use for a habit forming. It could be a substance, it could be a behavior. So so anything is not good. Yeah, suicidal tendencies. So we've seen a drastic increase in suicidal tendencies and in suicides, especially among the young people. Abstract thoughts about ending your life or feeling that people would be better off without you is so many. So we always say, watch the person. So there's anxiety, there's depression, and there are changes in behavior. So sometimes we think that a suicidal person might show a behavior like feeling depressed all the time or sad all the time. But we've also seen that it could be the other way around, because suddenly a person who's depressed can show a different kind of an emotion, showing that they're very happy. So it's very important to be very observant about difference in any kind of a behavior. So suicidal ideation we see is very, very common these days. Self-harming tendencies, which we have noticed in young people, especially in school-going and college-going students. So what happens is sometimes the age group of 13, 14, the teenage years are very, very critical, as we all know. So that's the time that as young children or young adolescents, they try to reach out to your parents, or they try to reach out to your teachers, because they spend their most of the time in schools or in or colleges or at home. So sometimes what happens is, if we don't pick up those little cues where you feel like they want to talk to you, they reach out to you, and you're not really paying attention, we've noticed that many children have started self-harming because they feel they have no control over the situation, and they need to cope with what they're going through somehow. So this has been a very, very common issue in the recent past. We have many students coming. So oppositional defined behaviors are again mostly by children that you see, who have patterns of anger, irritability, arguing, defiant towards the parents, or it could be the teachers too. So that is kind of a behavior showing that, okay, I'm having a difficulty here. So it's more an attention-seeking behavior, which we need to be very conscious about.
Asha ma'am, we have discussed about 7 different, signs that show common mental health issues. Are there any other issues that, commonly found within the classroom where, under the guidance of a teacher, or are these the only thing which, are there any behaviors that would, be commonly seen in a classroom?
Right. So many behaviors. So like I was saying, you need to look for any change of behavior in a student per se. So aggressive behaviors are very common. And if a child is suddenly kind of being, is not mixing with or mingling with people, that's very common. A child trying to kind of seek attention, you'll see suddenly children disrupting a classroom. That is again a big, a red flag, because okay, there's something happening here, the child. So those would be, I guess, some of the common kind of and defined behaviors, definitely, yeah. You also have bullying. Sorry, there's bullying also. A lot of others that. Yeah.
So here, I would like to ask a question to the audience as well. Have you or anyone you know closely have experienced any of the issues that we have just discussed? It could be your peers, it could be your students. So if you have had experience of someone very close to you, where you could observe these kind of, symptoms, you can please put it on the chat box. It will be useful to know that, or if we have come up with any other symptom, it will be good for us to discuss here. So we have one hand raised. Miss Deepa Vaidyanathan. We have unmuted you. If you wish to speak, please go ahead. You can unmute from your side and you can speak, ma'am. I see that your hand is raised. Did you raise your hand because you wanted to share something, ma'am? I think she lowered her hand. So yeah, we'll get back to the webinar. I don't think anyone we don't have any messages so far. So we'll move ahead with the webinar, Asha ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
What are the factors that affect mental health and what we can do? We have seen what are the common mental behaviors that we can see. Now, what are the factors that affect them and what we can do about it? This will be our next part of the webinar.
So factors that affect mental health, I think especially in youth, is one part of it is the school life, which children spend and young people spend so much of time at school. So one would be definitely academic stress, because there's so much of competition, peer pressure, peer rejection, and bullying. So even within peers, there's always a child wants to be accepted. So that is a very that plays a very major role in what the mental health is going to be like. Peer rejection again, and bullying. So this would be some of the important areas in school. And perception of self, which is very, very important. I think even as adults, our perception of self is so important. All of us have different perceptions of ourselves based on probably what we experience or what we hear from others. So body image, self-esteem. So body image is a big, big concern right now. And a very interesting observation is that even in advertisements these days, you see different people with different body types and body sizes and colors. Yes, skin colors are being portrayed, which is really, really nice. So body image and self-esteem is very important, contributes to a lot of mental health concerns, identity formation, and social exclusion. So perception of self is very important to each one of us, and we need to see how we can build a positive self-image in each one of us. The next would be digital media. I think we all know what digital media has done to our lives. It's changed our lives. It's been positive and negative, but especially for children, I think they've been exposed to digital media very, very early in life. So cyber addiction, social media influence. So cyber addiction, I think this kind of really happened during the pandemic, where this suddenly hit us, and there were parents who did not know what to do with the children because they had to balance their work and family life. So in fact, many children are being brought now to us to kind of see that we are able to help them with cyber addiction, which has brought in a lot of aggressiveness in the children. The second thing is the influence of social media, which we all know, which social media is again portrays not a very truthful kind of image there. So it has its pros and cons too. And that's caused another major, has been a major influence in the lives of the youth. Relationships. So relationships and social challenges. So this is again influenced by, we can say, social media. We can, any kind of a media has been it's influenced by, and not only for the youth, but I see even for the adults, because our relationships are so important to us. Parental family conflicts and loss of loved ones. So this is also something that is very important, because parents are struggling to balance their lives. Children can go through a lot of trauma in the younger days when there's been grief in the family, there's been a loss in the family, or there's been conflicts within the family. We see a lot of divorces, separations now, and that can affect the child. And like I mentioned earlier, loss of a loved one, which has especially happened a lot during the COVID, the pandemic. So for them to kind of cope with these stresses in life has been great. So again, past experiences, underlying mental health issues, abuse. Okay, so past experiences where maybe they have, so past experiences, all of us have our own journeys in life. So any kind of a negative experience can impact our whole thought process. And unless we kind of seek help earlier, it kind of aggravates. Abuse, whether it's physical, verbal, sexual, yes, definitely has a big impact in the health of the youth. So this can happen outside home, this can happen at home. And we've also seen that many of the abuses happen in the family, within the family. It could be somebody very close. So even witnessing abuse does have an impact on children. Yeah.
So, Asha ma'am, what we are seeing here, whether it is a school or at home, the stress, the pressure can have an impact on the child, and the perception of self is formed very early in life, and that goes on throughout their lives, right? So helping the child have a proper perception of self and not depending on the body, the color, or the external what do you say, how they are
Appearance.
seen externally. Yes, that should not affect. And as teachers, school leaders, and parents, we should be very cognizant on how we are helping the child form this perception of self. And for as for digital media also, we can discuss further on what we can do. But what I'm trying to ask is, things that happen in school can also have an effect on this child when they are at home. It is not like something happens in school and the child forgets it in the school, or something happens at home, the child forgets it at home and comes to school. Both of them can have the effect on the child, and they will take it wherever they go. uh,
Sure.
I mean, is this what we are trying to say here, ma'am? So
Yes,
parents at
absolutely.
home, yeah,
Yeah.
parents at home and teachers and school leaders at school have to be really careful. So yeah, so ma'am, what would we, how would we know that a child is undergoing something?
Okay. So I think, like we've mentioned earlier again, so any change in behavior is we need to kind of observe, and that's like a red flag. So outbursts of extreme irritability, out of control behavior, which is impulsive behavior, drastic changes in mood, behavior, or personality, expressing fear and avoidance, and restless behavior. So whenever there is a change in behavior, it's good for the teacher to kind of maybe even connect with the parents. So it's very important for the parent and the teachers to work together. So it's good to kind of observe that and maybe connect with the parent and ask if there is something happening at home, or even take the student aside and have a conversation with the student to see what is happening. And definitely the child in some way would be able to express. So this is something, maybe it's not a change in behavior for a day, but over a period of time. Let's say in 2 days, 3 days, if there's some change in behavior, even crying, then you know that there is something kind of happening there.
Did we complete this, Asha ma'am?
Yeah, sure. So changes in academics is difficulty concentrating, academic performance, and avoiding school. Um, feelings of hopelessness, hurting oneself, talking about death or suicide, persistent sadness, avoiding social interactions, and deflecting pain, which is changes in eating habits, difficulty sleeping, frequent headaches or stomach aches, and fainting. So, these are some of the red flags again. And that's why I say it's very important for the parent and the school teachers to be, in constant communication, so that you'll be able to share notes, you'll be able to share any changes that you're seeing, which are common at school and um, at home.
Okay, so can you give any tips that the teachers can use to help students stay motivated, ma'am?
So I think a lot to do is to have conversations with the students, and keeping the conversations going on how they're feeling, keeping the conversation going on their daily, they'll not only about the academics, but other things that they're going on in life, that's going on in life. So where the child trusts the parent. So one is to set clear goals for students is very important. Um, Also, to be mindful, to be mindful of what you do every day. Be mindful about your emotions. Also, that not get, so what happens when you have very big goals in life is is that you tend to get overwhelmed. So break tasks into smaller, manageable steps, which are easier to achieve, which are realistic. So we always talk about the SMART goals, which kind of, which can be achieved, and not be conscious about what goals that you kind of set for yourself. Manage time effectively. So we very often talk about multitasking. So multitasking can cause a lot of stress. So planning your routines very well and managing your time effectively is very important. Embrace failure as a learning opportunity. So another thing which would be detrimental is comparing yourself with others. Everybody needs to understand that you have your own abilities, you have your own qualities. So embrace, so not to take failure as as the end of your life, so take it as a learning opportunity. You always learn from your mistakes, and celebrate small victories. It's so important to celebrate your victories. It's so important to believe in yourself. It's so that it motivates you to kind of do participate in a lot of things, and also feel good about yourself. Take care of yourself and stay inspired. So when you're taking care of yourself is, again, I would say about following gratitude. You can have a gratitude journal that you have. Taking care of yourself is working out. Staying inspired is by reading very positive books, involving yourself in in things that we talk about how altruism really helps your mindset. So there are many students who volunteer in let's say orphanages or teaching underprivileged children, which is all good for your mental health. Visualizing success, yes. So think positive thoughts, and visualizing success is very important, because negative thoughts is something that comes very easily to us. So you need to change your frame, we say, the narratives, the frame of thought, and visualize more positive thoughts about yourself. Seek support. Many times we think we can handle ourselves. We don't have to go to people. But having a support system is very, very important, where we are able to talk about things. Many times we could be ashamed talking about things. Many times we are afraid that people would judge us for speaking our heart out. But seeking support is very important, with our friends or with people that we trust. Maintain a positive mindset. So affirmations are very, very good for your mind. So reading a book which has positive affirmations, appreciating every little thing in life is very important.
Asha ma'am, there are two people who have raised their hands.
Sure.
So I'll just pause a minute and just see if they want to share anything. Miss Annie has raised her hand. Annie ma'am, I'm allowing you to talk, so you can unmute the microphone from your end, and you can speak. If you have any questions or anything that you want to clarify, please do so. But you will need to unmute from your side.
Yes. Are you able to hear me, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yes.
We do have children who are raised by single parent, like father is not there. So those children show too much of aggressiveness. So how can we handle these children? Can you give us some tips?
Yeah, sure. So, so basically, it comes out of a lot of insecurity that the child is going through. So I think such issues can only be handled by a professional, ma'am. So one thing is to watch out for the symptoms. What kind of symptoms they are. So aggressive, to what extent of aggression the child is going through, and the child would definitely. So you would have to, inform the parent, and the child would need professional help, because there'll be a lot of trauma in the child, which cannot be easily kind of handled by anyone else other than someone who's a professional. Also, the second thing is to kind of build trust with the child. So the child needs obviously a lot of what do I say, affection. The child needs somebody to talk to. So those are the things probably the teacher can take a little extra time to kind of try and be there for the child in the school environment, because if it is aggressiveness, then that is something that needs to be kind of seen by a professional who can give you further advice on that.
Thank you, ma'am. I have another question. Can you suggest any activities that will enhance the brain health, like exercise kind of a thing that we can teach our teachers to make the students do every morning?
Okay, so I think yoga, physical activity is very good. Also, we have what do you say? A lot of mindfulness activities are there, which you kind of there are visualizations. So you have a picture, and in which you ask the child to talk about different situations that you're going through. You can talk about emotions. So a lot of it is about allowing the child to speak, to have those conversations with other children. Like you call you I'm sure many schools have circle time. So these are very important things that can be done in the circle time. Kind of talk about emotions, talk about friendships, talk about positive attitudes. So this will kind of what do I say, open doors to a lot of their emotions or turmoils that are going inside them. So sharing circles are very, very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Annie ma'am, for coming up with these questions. I'm sure it will be of use to a lot of other teachers and school leaders as well. Thank you again. We have another person, Dr. Deep Khare, who has raised their hand. Dr. Deep Khare, I'm allowing you to talk. It's just that you will have to unmute from your side to be able to speak. If you have any questions or concerns to get clarified, please do so by unmuting. Dr. Deep Khare, do you wish to speak, sir?
Not able to unmute. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I was listening patiently, and I'm very happy that I'm part of this. And I'm a teacher and principal and run boarding school for quite some time, and I resound everything which is spoken. And I only just have to share my little experience of 30 to 35 years, that the acceptance of a child and the due respect to a child is the key to quite an extent. Personally, I feel that to keep him healthy mentally and physically. So this is what a short reflection I would try to give. I was able to handle some children like single parents and separating parents and remarrying parents and whatnot in my many years of schooling as a principal and a boarding school principal. So I'm very sure that if we give children an environment in the school of safety and security of their well-being, that is, we accept the way they are, the skin color somebody was referring, and the family background, and if we do not create boundaries of you are a good child and you are a bad child because you got less marks, you've got more marks. All those differentiation, if we play it soft, I think a lot can be taken care of. And as you said very rightly, if we have a patient hearing to the children, that if we would listen to them, a lot can change. And of course, in the name of schooling and completing syllabus and trying to get good marks, we become busy in telling and rather than being able to listen to them. So this is what in fact I wanted to share, and I'm very happy to be part of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deep Khare. Yeah, it is really insightful, and I think others like us can also pick up a few things from your experience. Now, Asha ma'am, I will be moving on to the webinar. We don't see any more hands raised, so I safely think we can move on. And even before I asked the question, there was a teacher and a school leader who spoke about various things. So I think we can skip this discussion question, or if someone else has anything to share, I think yes, Sandhya ma'am has raised her hand. Sandhya ma'am, I think she lowered her hand. There is someone by name MS. I don't know who it is. I have allowed you to talk. Please unmute yourself if you want, if you wish to speak anything. We have a discussion question here. As teachers or school leaders, what are the different things you do to create a positive environment? As Dr. Deep Khare rightly said, it makes sense. Let's listen to the next person. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, sir, I don't know because the initials are just MS. Please go ahead. I've unmuted you.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello,
Am I
ma'am.
audible?
Yes, you are audible, ma'am. Your good name,
Ma'am,
ma'am?
this is regarding the Q&A, one question I raised in the chat box. Sorry for not connected to the topic, but my concern was regarding the learning issues that the children face these days, ma'am. Like after COVID, learning gap has been like increased a lot. But how do we understand that? Is it the learning gap that is formed because of the COVID, or is it the learning disability that the child is entering into? So, is there any informal assessment that we can do in our school to check if the child is actually like getting into that learning disability?
So if it is a learning disability, so you have, so you want to know if it is, let's say, is it a behavioral issue? Is it to do with a learning disability? So there are specific, specific symptoms for learning disabilities. So you could do an informal assessment. I would also say that if there is, somebody who could come, a professional who could come and kind of give a talk, maybe an information on, the informal assessments. You have checklists which could kind of help, which definitely help the teachers to know whether it is a learning disability or is it an effect of the behavioral changes due to the pandemic. I totally get what you're saying, because after the pandemic, we have seen, different kinds of challenges that, that are there, especially for teachers. And there are assessments and checklists that you could kind of have.
It's like, ma'am, I'm a counselor in the school, but
Okay.
then for me, we are like sending children to assessment, IQ assessment, learning, specific learning disability assessments, all that. But
Yes.
before sending them there, I just wanted to like have that informal assessment. Like, is it the learning gap or is it the learning disability? Like, if we send the child there, there are chances that it should not be labeled, but then still they kind of have that. The parents also get into that kind of stereotype, or they get going to the assessment is kind of
Right.
so that
So like I said, if it is a learning disability, there are very specific symptoms that you will see. There is a criteria for that. So yeah, so for example, if it is a speech delay, there is a certain kind of will have a certain kind of issue. So I would say that it is good to do a screening, but after that it is good to send the child for an assessment, for a formal assessment, which will give you very clear and specific information or diagnosis, like we say.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Asha ma'am, we have a couple of questions. I think this was exactly at the time my network went wrong. So,
okay, sure.
How to handle bullying in school among young children, and is it do we have to change the school of the child if this is persistent? These are two questions, but I'm clubbing it into one.
Okay, so is this from a school point
So,
of view?
I don't know. Someone by name Ruth Sager has put it in the Q&A section. Deepa Vaidyanathan has asked this question: how to handle bullying in school among young children?
Okay, so is Mrs. Deepa a teacher?
That is not specific here.
Okay.
Ma'am Deepa Vaidyanathan, ma'am, are you a teacher or are you a parent?
Yeah, that's
Assuming them to be a teacher, can we go ahead with giving a solution?
yeah. So when they say no, the reason why I asked is we were talking about change of school. So I wanted to know if it is a parent point of view or a teacher's point of view. So I think changing a school may not help, because this is a behavior we are kind of talking about. So where does this behavior stem from? So obviously any kind of a behavior, the child is trying to cope with something. So it's communicating something. The child is trying to communicate something. So we need to see where is this bullying coming from? What kind of bullying is this? Is it aggressive? Is it harming the other? So is it because of low self-esteem that the child is into bullying? So it's very important to see what the core issue is of the bullying, and only then a decision or can be taken, because just by changing the school, it's not going to help, because that behavior can continue. So where is this stemming from is very important to understand.
So there's another question by Ruth Sager. Ma'am, why some students don't want to talk or open up at all in classroom?
So if a child is not opening up, could be due to low self-confidence, low self-esteem, could be some children with speech delays do not open up. Maybe if they're very shy, some have anxiety issues, so that would also kind of cause a child not to be not to open up. And also past experiences. The child might have had a negative experience, while trying to kind of open up. If a child is stammering or stuttering, could also have anxiety when kind of trying to open up. So we need to see what the reason is. And if it's a school thing, we could slowly encourage the child to take part in activities. So that would really help the child to kind of open up.
I hope, Ruth Sager, your question is answered there. If not, we will revisit it at the end of the webinar. There's another question, ma'am. How do we address or help a child with body image concerns?
Yeah, depending on how old the child is, I think appreciation is very important. And also, at school, if you could have conversations or discussions around these kind of things, and paying more emphasis on, like doctor said, respecting and accepting differences. We're all different in different ways. Intellectually, we are different. Physically, we're different. So I think it's very important to talk about inclusion, and respecting each other for how we look. So many times what happens is the body image issue comes because of comparison. It comes because of some comment that somebody's made, so poor self-esteem. So I think we need to kind of change the conversations that we have. So instead of saying, oh, how lovely you look, or why can't we more appreciate about the qualities that we have in each other. I think those kind of things would really improve self-esteem and confidence in people, and they'll be able to look beyond the self-image. So just encouraging that person would be really of great value, I guess.
There are questions around bullying again. As a parent of a young child who is getting bullied and an incident of sexual behavior, wanted to know about changing schools.
Yes. So that's why I kind of wanted to know if this is a parent. If it's a parent, I think that can help. Again, knowing where this bullying is coming from, so I think that would it would be very important to kind of also seek professional help, but also change. If this child is being bullied, yes, I would say it would help.
Okay, so there's one question where in a boys' hostel, a class 7 student is good when an elder is around, but gets involved in a quarrel, fight, abusing, indiscipline when amongst other students. Speaks truth and accepts what he did. How to deal and ensure he doesn't get involved in these incidents?
The child would definitely, so this aggressive behavior looks like a defiant behavior also, which is not going to change in a day. So many of these aggressive behaviors that we are talking about have a lot of underlying issues. So probably a long-term counseling would be important for this child, because it's not going to change overnight. So we have to get to the root of the problem, where this is stemming from.
So you're suggesting they have to speak with an expert and
have to, Vishala, because a lot of these kind of behaviors, there is some underlying issues there. It's not like we can talk to the child one day or it's just going to change, but we'll have to find the underlying issue, and then we would be able to help the child. Again, like I'm saying, many times, every behavior is reaching out, it's trying to communicate something. So it's very important that we understand what is it that the child is going through. Definitely there is something that the child is going through, therefore exhibiting some kind of a behavior, whatever it is, even if it's a negative behavior, it's communicating something.
I think we are running short on time. Maybe we will, there are some more questions that are there, but I'll just, I request the audience and the participants that I'll just park it for a little bit of time before we finish the remaining of the content here. Then we will get back to the questions, and I'll definitely help you reach out these questions to Asha ma'am, where you can get answers to these questions. So Asha ma'am, quickly, let's move to the next portion, which is teachers' role in supporting students' mental health. Here, I think many of the questions asked on the Q&A might get some answers. If not, we will definitely revisit those questions. So over to you, Asha ma'am.
Yeah, I think this is something that we all have also kind of spoken about, which would be the school environment itself is so important. Like so like Doctor was saying, sometimes we are so focused around marks, we are so focused around curriculum. But I think because the child spends so much of time in school and colleges, I think it's so important to focus on their mental well-being, which has a lifelong effect. So foster a supportive and inclusive classroom environment is so important. So sometimes even putting up charts, about kindness, about even the visual representations is so important everywhere, maybe in a school environment. A teacher is also a role model for a child. So, so even a tone of voice is important. How we speak to a child, how we look at a child is important. The connect between and the relationship between a teacher and the child is so valuable. That's why we always remember some of our teachers of being very kind, being very supportive. So that is something that we need to create. A teacher, very important to educate yourself about mental health. So that is something that we ourselves need to educate us. We need to know about mental health, promote emotional awareness and self-expression. So we also kind of can teach children how to communicate. So if I'm sad today, I'm angry today, what would be a good way of communicating whatever you feel? And these are our basic emotions: sadness, anger. So it's okay to feel angry, it's okay to be sad, but to teach them ways in which they can express their emotions. Establish positive teacher-student relationship, like I again kind of spoke about. Again, to emphasize that it is very important. Encourage help-seeking behavior. So as a child, or maybe even as an adult, to speak to somebody, you need to trust them. Establishing trust is very important for somebody to come to you and say, I'm going through this. Practice active listening. So compassionate and active listening is very important. So and also what language are we using in front of the children? How are we addressing problems? So even to kind of we have to be very conscious about the remarks that we make in classrooms. So these are some things that as teachers, if we can be more aware of, would really change the environment. Incorporate mindful and relaxation techniques. Like I said, maybe before you begin a class, it's really important that, including the teacher, that you have sessions where you can relax, you can have good conversations, positive conversations, and then begin the day. Because as a teacher, you might be coming in with your own set of stress factors. So it's good that everybody kind of begins the day relaxed. So even singing a song, chanting, whatever it is. Offer academic support. Yes, because sometimes, like I said, the words that we use are very important. And comparison, we also have, as teachers, have to understand that not all children are the same. Some, so everybody has their different abilities. So it's very important how we kind of nurture their positive, positive qualities, talk about their positive qualities, and be very mindful of how we kind of differentiate children. Collaborate with other professionals, yes, because like how I've kept emphasizing, certain behaviors can be kind of handled in the class, but certain behaviors come out of a lot of deep-rooted issues or traumas that they've gone through. So it is not very easy for a class teacher to handle it. But it's very important that we do not ignore it and seek professional help. So discuss it with a parent and seek professional help. Practice self-care. Yeah, practice self-care, like again I said, for the teachers, very important, because you have to be in a frame of mind to kind of handle these young minds that are entrusted to you. So it's very important to kind of take care of yourself, do a lot of relaxation activities, And so when you come into a classroom of 30 to 50 students, is not easy. And so it's very important that you take care of yourself too, because it's a big responsibility that you have.
So Asha ma'am, thank you for giving those tips to all our teachers. Now, since the COVID happened, uh, most of the learning happened only through online. Even now, though the students have come back to schools, there is still a bit of digital learning and exposure to a digital world through different gadgets has not completely gone. It has become part of every student's life that they learn in a hybrid way, right? It has now let's accept that and move forward. But how do we ensure digital well-being and online safety? If you can give us some tips on that. So let's start with some statistics then.
So again, the statistics say that 70% of 12 to 15-year-olds have a profile on social media. 95.8% of 15-year-olds use social media. 3% of 11 to 16-year-olds spend their own money on online gambling. 7% have used their parents' accounts with or without their permission. Yes, many are victims of cyberbullying. So when you just kind of look at that, it's so scary. So I mean, even if you look at, people like, I think, was it Steve Jobs, who many haven't given their own children, haven't introduced them to any of this. So that shows us how addictive that this can be. And unfortunately, we have introduced this to children who are very, very young, and it is addictive. It is very addictive. So it is like getting addictive to it's like any substance abuse. So getting them out of it becomes very, very difficult. And I think we ourselves know that, how addictive it is. So so I would say reduce the screen time. Be very aware of what they are doing with their phones or other apps. Also, what age are you going to give them something like this? So these are things that you need to kind of be very aware of, because it's kind of now it's just kind of gone out of hand. So being very in connect with your children and understanding how much time they're spending on this is very important, and what kind of content they are consuming. So focus only on the work you need to do online. Yes. Maintain a balance between online and offline activities. Disconnect when required to. Avoid stressing your mind and eyes. Be kind to others, even online. Take help. Yeah. So when we're also talking about cyberbullying, there are a lot of things happening online. Also, exposing children to online and social media, I would say, is a no. You have to totally avoid that. Putting their pictures and putting their videos, I would say, is not good. You're unnecessarily kind of creating a negative experience there. Avoid accepting friend requests from strangers. Yes. Create strong passwords and do not share them with others. Check with an adult before you download a link in website or a gaming platform. Think before posting personal information on the internet to avoid identity theft and stalking and cyberbullying. Now, even if someone bullies you or your friends online, report the person. Okay. So I think also the children really don't come and share a lot of this to the parents, but I think it's very important that the parents are more aware of what's happening out there, because it's a different world out there.
Asha ma'am, here I would like to also say something. So most children, they like we saw in the statistics that you shared, most of them use up their parents' money even without the knowledge of the parents. So why does this happen, and how can parents or teachers be aware that students are doing something like this? Because students themselves, they don't come and express anything with the adults, but how can adults keep a check, or at least be a bystander, so that they can jump in right when it's needed and avoid a lot of these things?
So I think basically it's supervision. Supervision is very, very important. Communication is very important with your children. Long hours, if you find somebody long hours in a locked room, again, you need to go in and check what's happening. So like I said, that this is like an addiction. So whatever happens in addiction is what happens here also. So the main thing is keeping the communication open. Again, supervision is very, very important, and generally kind of being in conversations, observing the child, seeing if there are any changes in behavior. I think these things would really kind of help, and giving them, setting in a routine. I would also say if you could put them in more productive classes, their day should be spent in doing productive things. So I would say if you could give them probably a very less screen time, unless it's something that they need to do, and engage them in music classes, engage them in physical activity, engage them in something else that you feel they will be good at. I think that would be much better than um, in a way that they can avoid this kind of engagement.
True, Asha ma'am. So I have seen many parents who don't want their children to disturb them. They just give the phone to them, and they feel that they are occupying the child for as long as they don't come and disturb them. So this is something that mindfully and very consciously the parents have to not do, so that the child becomes an addict
Yes.
in the days that go by.
Yes. For example, I think when I was growing up, I had more of coloring books that my parents would take along, and so I think it's because once you get into it, then it's very difficult to get them out of
True. So I here I think we have come to the end of the actual content that we wanted to share with the teachers and teachers, students, and school leaders. And we come to the question and A part here. Here I see 4 people have raised their hand. I'll unmute each of them so that they can ask their questions. Can we go ahead, Asha ma'am?
Please do. Yeah.
So, Annie ma'am, do you have a question? I see that you have also raised a question in the Q&A, but you can very well ask it here. Annie ma'am, I have allowed you to talk, so please unmute your microphone and speak.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am, Annie.
Yeah. I have 3 questions. We have hyperactive students. So teachers are finding it difficult to control them. So is there any ways that you can suggest to keep them in control? This is question number 1. And then how to increase concentration power in children while they are inside the classroom? What are the exercises that we can give, that you can suggest for students who are addicted to mobile phones? Recently, I had a parent bringing their child to admit in a class LKG, and just for 2-3 minutes, when they were sitting in front of me for interview, the child was not able to sit without the mobile. So now after this child comes into the classroom, I don't know what will be, how the child will be inside the class. So can you suggest some tips for all these three things? Handling hyperactive children, increasing concentration power, and steps to for children to get rid of this mobile phones.
Yeah. So all three are interconnected, and so I work with children specifically. So there is, after the pandemic, we've seen a huge change in the behavior of children. Hyperactivity is increased, concentration is decreased, and all due to the addiction of the mobile. So it's all connected, Annie. So addicted to mobile now, you might, or most of the time you will see children getting aggressive if you take away the mobile. So this is something which we say has to be slowly done, like for any addiction. So it's kind of weaning off, which needs to be done at home, because obviously the parent cannot send the child with the mobile. So the hyperactivity is also caused because of, so the more hyperactive the child is, the less the concentration. So hyperactivity also is again caused because of the mobile addiction. So it has to be weaned off slowly. And as you're weaning off, I think you need to kind of also kind of either give the child an alternative to do. So find out what the child likes. Is there something that the child really likes? So you'll have to find an alternative for the child. So, to kind of work with or engage with. And slowly the weaning off has to happen. And I think it has to happen at home. And because if the child is really young, it will take time, but then you can do it. Hyperactivity, again, we'll have to see, is again, like I said, because of the addictions that are there. What extent is the hyperactivity is what we need to see. If the child is unable to sit in the class at all, and is running around, is becoming impulsive behaviors, then I think you would have to seek professional help, where you have occupational therapists or behavior therapists who can work on the hyperactivity to bring it down a little. And constant, I think, also getting the child's attention back to whatever the child is doing would help. Getting, seeing the seating position of the child, who is sitting next to the child. So these are the little things that we kind of need to look at. So concentration, increasing concentration, as there are different kinds of either in the form of worksheets, or we need to also, like I'm saying, we need to see why the concentration is less. What is it due to? So is it the hyperactivity that is causing the concentration? So these are little things that we need to look at now.
Ma'am, does that answer your questions, ma'am?
Yes, thank you.
Thank
but
you.
is there any daily exercise kind of a thing that we can give?
Yes. So we have, we kind of call it a lot of, hyperactivity also happens due to a lot of sensory issues, So, so the child wants to be active all the time. So swimming, physical activities are very important. So the child's, all the energy is kind of worked on. Then also you can have calming activities, which music is very, very good for the child. So if you can sit and kind of make the child sing or hum, so those are also very good. The relaxation kind of activities. So where you can kind of just put in some music and ask the child to kind of just calm down, before an activity, or maybe the first part of the day, and then begin an activity. So that would also be good.
Thank you.
We have Mr. M.N. Prakash also raised their hand. Sir, I am allowing you to talk. Please unmute your microphone and speak. Then we have one more person, Simarjit Kaur. After M.N. Prakash, sir, I'll allow Ms. Simarjit Kaur also to speak. Please go ahead, sir. Prakash, sir. Prakash, sir, do you wish to speak? Okay, I'll allow. Yeah. Prakash,
Hello. Can I speak, madam?
Yes,
Yes, Mr. Prakash.
Yes, madam. We don't have any mentally retarded children in our school, but the children, those who are from illiterate parents, they are having, they are unable to follow the things what we are telling and what we are instructing them. And
Sorry, I've lost.
Yeah, sir, we can't hear you, sir. Prakash, sir, we can't hear you.
hello.
Sir, we lost you for a minute.
Could you repeat that, sir, please?
Sir, madam, we don't have any mental retarded children or mentally, physically unable children that have. We are having the children with illiterate parents, where we are not able to transform the things clearly to them. In what way can
I think we lost him again.
Yes.
Prakash, sir, we are unable to hear you. What we can do is we can come back to you at the end of the session, sir. Let's move on to the next participant who has raised her hand, Simarjit Kaur, ma'am. I'm allowing you to talk. You can unmute your microphone and share, ma'am. Simarjit Kaur, please unmute your microphone to be able to speak. There's no response there. There's another person, Mr. Vinay. Vinay, sir, I'm allowing you to talk. Please unmute your microphone to be able to talk. Vinay, sir, can you hear us? Meanwhile, let me go to the Q&A.
Will you able to hear me?
Yes.
Will you able to hear? Yeah, very good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I have observed some of the children, they have the attention seeking behavior in the classroom. So how to handle these attention seeking behavior?
What kind of attention seeking, Mr. Vinay?
I mean, they are especially with the girls, they are creating some issues which are not actually relevant to the academics. Sometime they are showing that, I mean, they are not well.
Right.
Okay, so these type of
what is the age group that you're talking about?
Yeah, they usually belong to class 11th or class 9.
Yeah. So
especially with adolescents.
Yes, that's exactly why I asked. Because an attention-seeking behavior of a younger child would be very different from an adolescent, and this is part of their growing because of the teenage years, we say. So this is very common. So we have to look at specifically what kind of behaviors are they exhibiting. And I think a lot of counseling is what will kind of help them. Having, I mean, you need to kind of talk to them on the behaviors. because we'll have to see where this is coming from. So as you know, like there's a lot of, social media influence. There's a lot of self-esteem issues these days. There's a lot of body image issues these days. And so for them, pure acceptance is very, very important. So which they will try to do different things to just gain that kind of, acceptance, probably with their peers, or we don't know who. So they would need a lot of talking to, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And secondly, like lot of children nowadays, especially post-COVID, they are exhibiting the breathlessness kind of behavior in the class.
Okay. So if it is an anxiety issue, they could that could be another symptom of anxiety, getting breathlessness, because of they might have it could be fear, it could be like a panic attack, because anxiety comes from fear. So we've also seen a lot of children go through this post-COVID. So it could be some kind of a fear that their child is experiencing.
Also, Asha ma'am, here we can't rule
how
out
to handle this kind of behavior in the class.
So if it is anxiety, I think the best would be to go to a psychologist, and yeah, that would be, because we have to know what the underlying issue is, and sometimes a psychologist or psychiatrist will be able to give some medication, or we need to say, is there any other way of kind of helping the child?
Relaxation kind of exercise, will they help?
Yes, it will help, but it depends on the intensity of what the child is going through.
Right. Thank you very much.
You are.
Thank you, Vinay sir. Asha ma'am, we have actually addressed most of the questions. There is one question in the Q&A section from a half an hour ago. Can a psychologist with master's degree conduct IQ assessment in school? So I think we can answer this in our question section, right? Where we are talking about.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I think these are all the questions that we could accommodate. So I'll just, yeah. Asha ma'am, I would want to, ask you some more questions that came from teachers and school leaders who had taken part in our previous positive behavior management webinar, right? So the first of them are mental health issues treatable?
Mental health issues are treatable, but again, depending on the intensity of the disorder or the issue, so, and the severity, but they are treatable.
When does one decide they need an expert's help? It could be a teacher or a parent. When do they decide that a certain student needs or a certain child needs an expert's help?
Okay. So like I kept saying, how important observation is. So let's say if it is you watch for a week, I would say don't, a week is more than enough to observe a child. And if you feel that this is a consistent concern, and if the concern is aggravating, is there things that you have tried out and it's not working, I think that's the best time to kind of seek an expert's help, because they would be able to guide you the right way.
So if I have to rephrase what you said, give it a week's time and no more than that to be seeking out.
Because we talk about early intervention. So even any kind of change of behavior also, that you see, wait and observe for a month. And also you could kind of consult the parent and talk to the parent and see if this is the same, concern of the parent. And then I would say the earliest to seek help.
Thanks, ma'am. Coming to the next question, what is the difference between psychiatrist, psychologist, and a counselor?
I think this is very important because many don't know the difference. So a psychiatrist is the only person who has a medical degree also, and who can prescribe medication. So a psychiatrist is the only one who can prescribe medication, and he has a medical degree also. Psychologist would be a master's in probably clinical psychology or in any psychology major. And a counselor is a person who not necessarily has done, was graduated in psychology, but who could have done, courses in counseling or therapy. So it's very important to kind of, distinguish, because psychologists also do psychotherapy. And some like, so if it goes beyond, so psychologists would also have studied abnormal psychology. So they would know the diagnosis, of a particular concern. And if needed, they can refer, if they feel medication is needed, they can refer to a psychiatrist. So the question, if IQ assessments can be done in school. So usually IQ assessments are done by an MPhil in who's an MPhil in psychology. So those are, the assessments that can be taken to other schools, and for even for you take them for children with learning disabilities, especially the IQ. We call it the psycho-educational assessments, which are done by the MPhil psychologists.
So these kind of assessments could also be useful to identify gifted children also, right? People.
Yes, and children with autism, children with learning disorders. And what I meant to say is, if they need exemptions from, children with learning difficulties sometimes need exemptions from certain subjects or accommodations as such. So that would be kind of be done by a clinical psychologist who has an MPhil.
So can I move to the next question, ma'am?
Yes.
What are some things to never ignore? Like, for example, I see that my child is throwing a tantrum and I feel that, okay, he must be going through something. Let me ignore it for 2-3 days. He'll come back on track. Is this something that we should think as parents or teachers, or when is it that we should take it seriously and not ignore?
Okay, so some of the things I would say is, do not ignore delays, any kind of delays. Let's say in developmental delays, whether it's speech or physical, I would say do not ignore that. I would say behavior issues, do not ignore that. If a child is not socializing, if a child does not have enough eye contact when they're younger, do not ignore that. If there's certain things like bedwetting, certain, like if the child is exhibiting fear, do not ignore. And so any kind of a behavioral change, like I've been talking about, I think is something that we should not ignore. Crying, aggressiveness, a child who lacks social interaction or is avoiding social interaction. Fearfulness is something that we should not kind of ignore too.
Can you give some tips that can help one to cope with stress, depression, and anxiety?
Yeah, I think like we've already spoken about this. I think physical activity is very important. Building a good routine in your day is very important. Appreciating every little thing around you, taking time to appreciate is very important. Gratitude is very important. Staying connected with people. Is again, because we human beings need connection with people. Open up and talking to people, whatever it is. I think you need one go-to person whom you can go and share whatever you're feeling. That's important. Um, Trying to kind of learn new things, engaging or indulging in activities like music or any extracurricular activities are very good. So staying positive, and life is full of challenges, and you would have challenges. So accepting certain things, and trying to kind of learn from your lows also kind of can help, definitely.
One final question. What do I do and who do I reach out to in case we observe some behavioral changes or developmental delays, like you said, and things that, we feel, okay, this is not normal. This has to be, brought to the notice of an expert. Where do we go and who do we reach out to?
Okay, so I would say for younger children who are in school, we see a lot of speech delay. So there are also many children with autism that we are seeing. So I think it's always good again to observe and see, and then reach out to a professional. There are many centers now called the child development centers, or reach out to a psychologist, probably in a hospital. Or a pediatrician. Pediatricians are also very good. Now, if these are older college going students, I think first is to kind of have a conversation with them, talk to them, and then I think many colleges right now do have counselors. If it is not there, I think there are mental health professionals out there whom definitely you can reach out to. So don't try and think that you can handle the challenges yourself. So even if it is for another person, if it's a student in school, I would advise teachers not to always seek professional help, because in case you're missing out something. And the same with even college students or the older children. It's very important that they reach out and talk to somebody. And the next thing is to see if they're unable to cope with their stress, depression, or anxiety, to please reach out to a professional.
I think thank you so much for patiently answering all these questions, both from the audience and from me, Asha ma'am.
It's a pleasure, my
Very,
pleasure.
very informative and very useful. Like you said, mental health and awareness is a very, very vast ocean, and I think we have not even scratched the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more for us all to understand, because we are dealing with small children, students, right from kindergarten to college. And it's very, very imperative that we are all up to date about these things as well, because most of the time these underlying mental issues manifest as physical ailments as well. And most often what we look at is what is in front of us, the physical ailments. We try to treat them, and we ignore a lot of things that are actually stemming from the underlying mental issues. So it's very, very imperative to be very observant, like you said. And moving on, we have actually come to the end of the webinar. Sorry, we have overshot the time by 10 minutes, but nonetheless, I think it was a very, very useful tips and solutions that ma'am gave today. We have understood what mental health is all about, how it is interconnected with our physical and social life as well. So it's very important that we take care of not just our mental health, but the students and the teachers in our schools. We have understood what are the different factors that affect mental health and what we can do to overcome or address those things. I hope all of you have taken a lot of information today. The last and final thing is, I just quickly want to run you through two products of Varthana, which is Lead, a school. This will help you to integrate innovative tech-based learning solutions into your regular classes. If
I think Vishala got disconnected again. So I'm sharing the feedback form on Q&A. Please fill the feedback form so that we'll be able to share the certificate of participation with you for the webinar. And thank you very much, ma'am, for taking the time out to be a part of the session. I'm sure the school leaders, the things that you shared, they'll go back, implement in their class, and it would have a major impact. And you definitely open their minds to a lot of things that they would be now actively thinking and implementing in the class. And I'm positive it would have a positive impact in the class as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I've shared the feedback form in the Q&A section. Please click on that and fill it up, and wish you a happy weekend. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.